Hi, I'm Jeanna. This is Now What with Jeanna, where I answer questions, offer tips, and say stupid shit that I'm sure to regret about addiction, sobriety, and recovery. If you have a question, please feel free to ask it. I'm looking all over the place, and I would love to get it on the on one of my episodes. I'm always looking for new suggestions for show topics so that I can cover what you guys want to hear. I am looking, yes, I have this on. I'm trying to make sure everything's covered. Oh, there we go. And I think it is. There we go. If you have a question or comment, please feel free to put it in. You know, my phone has been dead all day long, and suddenly I go live and it is buzzing like crazy. I think you guys can hear it when it does this, but I don't know. There might be like a little beep. I don't know, but it's like vibrating all over the place. So today I'm going to talk about 6 tips for dealing with anxiety and sobriety. Anxiety and sobriety, I've been writing that phrase all day long, and it never even dawned on me that it had that little rhyme. I kind of like it. Anxiety and sobriety. Someone has joined. I'm not sure where you're from. Please let me know if you would in the comments so I could tell who you are. I'd love to know. Anyways, so tonight we're going to talk about anxiety. I'm going to say it again because it's kind of fun. Anxiety and sobriety. I should make that a mantra. Anxiety and sobriety. Okay, yeah, I'm silly. Anyways, I'm being goofy. But I do have I have 6 tips, but I think as I was rehearsing this, I threw in a couple on the side. For how to deal with sobriety, with anxiety. And this, you know, if you're not on the sober thing, you know, you know, that's okay. These are great tips, even if you're not trying to stay sober or whatever, dealing with that. It works all the way around. So it is really important though for us in sobriety, because anxiety, I'm probably going to laugh every time I say that. Anxiety can lead to relapse, but it also is part of the addiction for a lot of us. It's part of why we started self-medicating. It's there was anxiety in the self-medicating. For some of us, like I don't know if I had no anxiety, but I mean, I'll talk about that later. But I don't think anxiety was a huge problem for me until I started drinking. So, and then it becomes a problem after you quit too. Anyways, so I'm going to start with telling a story about why we do it. I guess that's how I want to call it, why we do it. When I was growing up, the only time I really ever saw my mom drinking was when she was really, really mad. I mean, really mad. I don't think I could get her that mad. Oh, I could when I was a teenager. I could, yeah, I got her that mad a few times when I was a teenager. But usually it was other people. A lot of times, I don't want to even say a lot of times. I don't remember it happening a whole lot. But you had to get her really mad, and she would go straight for something to drink, you know. And I don't even recall it being anything strong. I know she drank rum and coke, but I don't want to recall it being like a brandy or something, which is not a full-fledged, you know, like what I drank. But she would go straight to that. And what I learned from that is you deal with your emotions through alcohol. I'm sure I'm not alone in this, you know, this, whatever. I'm not alone in it. I'm sure a lot of us have seen it. We see it on television. You know, we see it, like I said, with our parents. And it just seems like, I don't know, we're trained that's how we deal with our emotions. You know, pop a pill or take a drink, or, you know, smoke some pot. I used to call it, what did I call it? I called it a, gosh, I can't even remember what I called it. I don't remember what I called it, but I had a term for it that I would, you know, this is going to drive me nuts. All day long I'm going to do this now. But maybe I'll forget about the other phrase that I was giggling about. But anyways, so we learned that alcohol does, it works. You know, I mean, if I'm in a bad mood and I start drinking, well, some people get in a worse mood, but for me, when I was in a bad mood or stressed out or feeling anxious, if I had a drink, it would calm me. And so that's what I did. And you do it enough, you know, it becomes a habit. It isn't the only reason I drank, though. So anyways, many of us use drugs and alcohol to relieve anxiety, panic, and stress. Doctors give us pills for it. They say, you know, take this and you'll feel better, or, you know, relax. And we're grown up to think that that's going to cover our anxiety problems and, you know, some of the other things. Unfortunately, these do not solve the problem. They cause more problems sometimes, because underneath what it's hiding, what that alcohol is hiding, is just that anxiety festering up. The problem that's causing the anxiety is still there. It doesn't go away. Hi, Ibar. How are you doing today? Glad to see you join me here. And let me know if you have a question, and I will gladly answer it for you, or try. I can't always answer it. Sometimes I have to put it on the agenda for next week, which is awesome. I can do that, but I actually have the agenda for next week already figured out. If you have a question, let me know, and I'll cover it. So anyways, underneath the problem is underneath the alcohol is the problem that still causes the anxiety. If you don't face it, it's not going to go away. Problems aren't going to get fixed. So alcohol does not actually work to relieve anxiety. In fact, in many cases, it causes more. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Over 40 million people deal with stress and anxiety on a daily basis. 40 million people. That's a lot of us. We get stressed out and anxious over work, over family problems, relationships, going to the doctor, going to the dentist. So that was my big one. I hated the dentist. I could go to the doctor any day, but, you know, I was scared to death of the dentist. Financial problems stress us out. All these things stress us out, and sometimes they get to the point of anxiety. They cause us anxiety, and we have to face it. Drugs to reduce anxiety sometimes leads to some substance, I can't even talk, induced anxiety disorder. And so that you can see that in two different ways. I don't know, I'm a little unclear about which part. The same paragraph identified it in two different ways, and I've felt and seen both. So let me talk to you about it. First of all, anxiety, substance-induced anxiety disorder appears as it's a symptom of withdrawal. And if you've ever been on that search for the drug, for me it was alcohol, and when it was going away, I got a little anxious. I wanted to know where more is. I still do the same thing with nicotine. I did it with cigarettes. I don't do that anymore, but I still do the same thing with my vape or my phone. I get anxious with my phone. When my phone is gone, I'm not the only one, by the way, that does this. I see a lot of people do it all the time. But we also have an anxiety with substance-induced anxiety or disorder. There's an anxiety that comes with the drug, not at the withdrawal, but with the drug. So a friend of mine's son was addicted to meth, and I don't know much about meth, but he was addicted to meth. Got an itch, and he on a few occasions had freaked out because he thought that a satellite, you know, way up, I mean, you use it for a star. I never know the difference, but a satellite in the sky, he thought it was an FBI drone spying on him. I mean, he was panicking, full-fledged, freaked out, running down the street. That's a substance-induced anxiety. I don't know if you'd call it a disorder. I'm not a doctor. I'm not prepared to do that, but you know, there's that anxiety you get at the phase of withdrawal, but then for some people and some drugs, there's that anxiety that comes in the middle, you know, as a result of the substance. You probably tell that I don't know a whole lot about that part of it, because I didn't do a whole lot of other drugs outside of alcohol. I did a few, but none that caused me that anxiety kind of thing. So panic attacks and anxiety, are they the same thing? I've had both. I haven't suffered from both. Panic is a sudden onset feeling of panic, of anxiousness. It's just, it hits real quick. You never know when it's going to hit, because, you know, I mean, I know that I have a few things that have caused me panic in the past, but they were always things that just hit all of a sudden. They were surprises to me. And the panic just dropped in to the point I had lost my son's ashes one time in a store. And I hit I panicked, and next thing I know, I was on the floor searching for my necklace, and in a complete panic when I couldn't find it. So there's that. That's panic. Anxiety, though, is gradual. It builds up and builds up, and it may never hit the level of a panic attack, but it grows as you know, until whatever it is you're anxious about is relieved. Anxiety comes from different things. Getting called to speak to the manager. You know, your manager comes up and says, "I need to talk to you in a little bit." That's when the tape starts spinning in your head. Oh, what did I do? I'm gonna get fired, or is it just a, you know, a write up, and you start to panic. And when I was working, I had one boss. He was not the main boss. He was a boss outside that would come to, you know, do the round, district manager. I don't think that's what we called him, but he was a district manager. And every time we got word that he was coming to our store, people would go in a panic. They just, you know, freak out. He's coming, he's coming, he's coming. And one of the ways I handled this is like a bonus tip. One of the ways I handled this was instead of hitting the he's coming mode, I said, he's coming, he's giving me a raise, he's giving me a raise, he's giving me a raise. People thought this was funny, but it meant that I didn't get anxious over his arrival. I didn't go into any sort of panic. I wasn't, you know, it was just a normal work day. But I used my thoughts and my mindset to avoid that anxiety with that. And you can do that. So there's a tip. It's not where it's supposed to be, but there's a tip you can use to deal with anxiety and panic. Also going to the doctor, as I said, dentist gives me anxiety. And for those of us who are working a program, a lot of programs have you make amends to the people you've harmed, and you don't know how many times I hear people say that that they have to make amends, and they're getting a little anxious over it, and this could lead to relapse if you're not careful. So you want to be careful. So how do you avoid them? This is actually not the first tip, but it is a start. This is the pre-tip. Know your triggers. This is a big deal. Who is going to set you into some sort of anxious panic into anxiety? What situations make you nervous? What moods do you have to be in order for anxiety to set in? And I don't think you have to be in a mood for anxiety to set in. However, if you are depressed, it might increase the possibility of anxiety setting in. If I am stressed out or depressed about something, and then one more thing pops in there, I'm not in the best shape mentally, emotionally, and it allows space for that to turn into anxiety. So people, situations, and moods could be your triggers. Different people. Some people cause me anxiety, some people don't. Like I said earlier, I don't deal too much with anxiety, but absolutely a boss almost always caused me anxiety. There is one person that if that person were to call me tonight, I would probably get a little anxious. I don't know. It flops between anxiety and anger. I don't know. So anyways, my mother coming with me knowing my house is dirty, I mean, not being in the best mood, would lead to anxiety. You want to know what your triggers are so that you can build a plan and work with them, or avoid the triggers. There's no reason why you have to answer the door when your mom shows up. That's funny. So, is anxiety real? For me, having anxiety also meant I had an excuse to drink. And many people with substance use disorder has also experienced this. All right, so I ask that because I don't want to, first of all, suggest that anxiety isn't real. For some of us, anxiety is very real. In fact, I know several people whose anxiety just gets them so spun around that they cannot. I don't want to say they can't function, but they have to very, very methodically deal with the anxiety to try and pull it down. But for some of us, that anxiety, for me, let's say for me, that anxiety, some of my anxiety was self-induced. If I was stressed out, feeling anxious, I could justify wanting a drink at 11, 12 in the afternoon, in the morning. I could justify it without it, me having to label it an alcoholic behavior. And it was, but I didn't know that at the time. And so I know that there were situations that don't normally bother me that, yeah, I would let bother me. I would talk myself into anxiety. I guess that's how I want to call it, so that I had an excuse to drink. And we don't really need an excuse to drink, but so many of us do. It's my grandbaby's born. It's time to celebrate. I need a drink. I got bad news from the doctor. It's kind of depressing. I need a drink. I'm going on a date with someone I've never met before. That don't happen anymore, but I'm going on a date with someone I've never met before. I need a drink. So we make all these reasons why we need to drink. For some of us, for me, anxiety and stress was one of those reasons. It was a big reason for me. I wasn't having a whole lot of fun by the end of it, so it had to be anxiety and stress. Now I want to say that anxiety does have its benefits. And that might also be why, if you're self-inducing your anxiety, you might get attention from it. You might get out of doing certain duties. For me, I might get out of the front seat into the front seat of the car. I'm a little claustrophobic, and in the back seat of cars, my feet, that tight space, and I just hit a panic. And for me, that meant that people would let me sit in the front seat, that there was never a hassle. And I didn't do it for that always. Maybe, I don't know, maybe. The point I'm trying to make is that it's really important to pay attention to your mind, what's going on, your anxiety. Is it something that you're really afraid of that's causing it? Is it something you're really worried about that's causing it? And again, I don't want to suggest that anxiety isn't real and that people don't have it. I'm saying I had self-induced anxiety. I made it happen in many cases. When I was getting married, I had a dress 30 miles in one direction and a tuxedo 30 miles in another direction. I didn't have them. And I had no anxiety about it. I didn't care. I was like, okay, well, they can wear their jeans just so long as they don't wear their underwear. I really didn't care. If my cake had fallen on the ground, it'd been, oh, all right, well, that sucks, but life goes on. So I don't have a whole lot of anxiety. The fact that I had anxiety and benefited from it in a couple different ways, says to me that it was something that can be overcome. I don't know. You have to decide on your own whether or not this is what you're doing. And actually, if it is, good for you, because it means it's going to be easier to overcome. Or at least it was for me. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist. I am someone who has done a lot of work and study about addiction and ways to recover. So there we go. So I said I had 6 tips to help you calm your anxiety so that you don't relapse. And I'm going to go ahead and give those now. The first one is to journal. And I talk about this one and several of the other tips in here. I talk about these a lot because they work and because they work for different things, for different reasons. But journaling, I love journaling for the purpose of identifying your anxiety. Identifying what you're feeling during the anxiety, and identifying a plan to recover from it or to get out of it. So at the end of each day, a few minutes each day, take out a journal and just write for a few minutes. It doesn't have to be long. And you're going to take a deep dive into your anxiety. You want to look at, throughout the day, what events caused you to feel anxious? What emotions, thoughts, and reactions did you have during that anxiety? And then ask yourself, was it rational? This is not about is anxiety real or not real? Was it rational? If you're afraid to speak in front of the cash register person, the clerk, is that a rational fear? Probably not, unless maybe you've done something wrong to her in the past and she might likely hit you. That would be a rational fear. But for the most part, to be afraid to talk to the clerk at the grocery store is not rational. And again, great. After a while, if you start identifying several things as not rational, you can put it in your head that this wasn't rational, and then let go of that fear, let go of that anxiety. And if nothing else, it's easier to get back to remembering that it's that it's an irrational thought once you practice it. All right. So what led up to the event? Sometimes the things A and B together, happen so close that you might think that A caused the anxiety, but it could have been 3 or 4 things back. Does that make sense? What led up to the anxiety? And usually it's the thing right before you feel it, but it could be a couple things mixed in with that, like a mood swing or a mood of being in a negative mood, or having a couple of bad events before the anxiety hit. And then this is just one more thing on top of everything else. So what led up to it? And what did you do to get through it? And as you start practicing things, take a look at what's working for you and what isn't. And logging it in your journal is a great place to do that. You also want to look at past events. For me, I might look at what caused me to feel so much anxiety when my necklace broke. And then kind of work through it that way. In my journal, you will learn so much about yourself, your feelings, how you can change your behaviors just by writing on a regular basis in a journal. And actually, you don't even have to reread it. I rarely reread my journal. Someone is joined. I'm not sure where you're joined. I'd love to hear from you. If you'd say hi, just go ahead and type it in. I would truly appreciate that. Anyway, so next, first tip was to write in your journal. I'm talking, by the way, if you just joined, I'm talking about ways to reduce anxiety. And I have 6 tips, although a couple little side tips in there, but 6 tips that you can use to reduce your anxiety, avoid anxiety, whatever you want to call it. So anyways, and as I said earlier, my phone is still going crazy. I don't know why. All right, so the next tip is get plenty of sleep. And again, I've said this on many things. Relieving stress, getting sleep will allow you to relieve stress before it turns into anxiety. It makes sure that your head is clear so you can think yourself out of the anxiety in a more rational manner, and it'll make you more confident about decision making. I was at a point where all this talk about anxiety is reminding me of things that I did, and I was at a point where making a decision was so difficult for me that it caused a lot of anxiety. I didn't want to make the bad choice. I didn't want to screw up everyone's life because I made a bad decision. And I would get so involved in this anxiety. I think that's Dana. Hi, Dana. And glad to see you here joining me. I'm giving tips on how to calm your anxiety. And so this tip we're working on right now is get plenty of sleep. Your brain, with a lack of sleep, has the ability to go into that anxiety real fast. Relieving stress before it turns into anxiety by getting plenty of sleep. Your head will be clear, you'll think straighter, And if you're walking around in a zombie state because you haven't got enough sleep, not getting things done on time, not able to think about the things that need to get done, yes, it's going to induce anxiety in for many people. But that's not always easy. If you're new in recovery, first of all, people who are new in recovery have a very difficult time regulating that sleep. There's ups and downs. And if you're going to bed at night thinking about the stuff that you've done when you were drinking, and those tapes playing in your head, and who doesn't like you anymore, and what kind of damage, and if you have to make amends to someone, if those tapes are spinning in your head, it's not going to be easy for you to get the sleep you need. So here is some suggestions to help you do it. First of all, start a bedtime routine. What happens is if you give yourself a routine that tells your brain and it tells your body it's getting time to go to sleep. It's getting time to go to bed. So create that routine and practice it and do it. And it might take a couple of weeks for it to kind of start adjusting so that it does that. But the more you practice and the longer it goes, the more natural it'll be, so that, golly, oh, I don't believe I just said golly. That's funny. I don't say, that is not something I say. But, oh, that was distracting. I know that it is easier for me now to lay my head down on my pillow and just fall asleep. It's like, it's weird. What time was I last awake last night? I don't even remember sometimes. Did it take a minute or 2 minutes? So I don't do that whole tape playing in my head anymore. So set your sleep schedule to go to sleep at the same time every night. Right before you go to sleep, right? Like right when I get into bed, and I don't do this so much right now, but I have in the past, right when I get into bed, especially if I'm struggling with a problem, I'll grab my journal and I'll write in my journal for a few minutes just to get that stuff out of my head. And I know if I've got like a task that I got to remember to do tomorrow, I can lay there trying not to forget it, knowing I'm going to go to sleep and probably forget anyways, and my head doesn't want to let me go to sleep. So I take that pen and paper and write that little task down so that I can get it out of my head and close my eyes and go to sleep. Then, and I don't do this, I really don't, and it's not totally my fault, turn off the television. It's not totally my fault. I'm sharing space with my partner, and he likes to watch TV. I'm going to blame it on him. It is not totally his fault either. So anyways, turn off that television. So Vince likes, he likes A Few Good Men. I hate it. I really hate that one. But in the middle of the night, I will get Jack Nicholson screaming at me, "You can't handle the truth." Do you know how fast I wake up when that happens? So turn off the TV. So Jack Nicholson is it Jack Nicholson or Nicholas? Nicholson isn't screaming at you. He also likes The Godfather, and there are a lot of machine gun scenes, and I'll be sound asleep and there's nothing that's going to wake me up faster. Instead of watching TV, at night, or maybe watch your last show at night, then turn it off. And someone else just joined, and you're catching me at my silly mode. I'm in silly mode right now. I hope it sticks around because I like it. Anyways, instead of turning the television, instead of watching the television to get yourself to sleep, try turning on some meditation music or sounds of nature, something that doesn't have words. However, if it does have words, and I occasionally will do this, some soft music that I know the words are, I know the words too, so that I'm not surprised or trying to think. This is not the time for me to be thinking. And if I know what it is that's going to happen next, I'm not thinking about it. Does that make sense? If I'm listening to a movie and something interesting happens in the movie, I might have my eyes closed, but as soon as that interesting thing happening catches my attention, I'm up, I'm looking at TV, I want to see what happens, and then I got to redo the whole process again. So, to get better sleep, turn off your TV. I'm going all over the place. Next suggestion is meditate, and I seem to say meditate a lot, but it works so well. And then, it has changed my life, meditation has. Before I came on here, I was trying to at least get a few minutes of meditation in. And this morning when Vince went to work, you know, we sat for a minute and just did our prayers and did some meditation, a little bit of brief meditation. It works to help you clear your mind and to learn how to control your breathing so that when a panic attack strikes, you can calm down faster just with that rhythmic breathing that you practice when you're meditating. I have a YouTube video on it in my dry January on meditation. There's what's called a 4-square breathing. And if a panic attack hits, this is a perfect way to regulate your breathing and get yourself calmed down and back on track. And all it is you take a deep breath in for 4 counts, you hold it for 4 counts, exhale it for 4 counts, hold it for 4 counts. And do this slowly. Breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold, breathe in. Okay, and that might not have been 4 because I'm trying to talk, count, and breathe at the same time. Did I tell you I can't chew bubble gum and walk? I apparently can't breathe and talk and count at the same time. So next suggestion is to take care of your own health, both your mental health and your physical health. Exercise is a natural stress reliever. A daily walk will help. A morning stretch will help. I was feeling a lot of stress a couple weeks ago, a lot of stress, and I was getting cranky on Vince. All he had to do was look at me the wrong way, and I was getting cranky. It wasn't a fight thing, it was a cranky thing. And he said, Jeanna, let's go to the gym. And I looked at him, and I got cranky. I'm like, I need more time, not more activities. But we decided to go to the gym, and after about 20 minutes, I was feeling absolutely amazing. We haven't been able to get back. I think we went back once since, but we haven't been able to get back, but it's on the agenda, and as soon as he's not working quite so much, we will be back at the gym. In the meantime, I will take daily walks because that exercise helps regulate your stress and relieve you from it. Breathing in the vitamin C increases your mood, and if stress leads to anxiety, the less stress you have, the less anxiety you're going to have. So go ahead and exercise. Also, along the lines of taking care of your health is eating the right foods, drinking plenty of water. Both of those will clear your brain and allow you to think and make decisions right. We spend so much time drinking our alcohol that we, I would say for about 10 years, I was pretty dehydrated because I didn't drink water. I drank alcohol, and my brain has got some recovering to do, and water helps speed up that process, but it also helps with your anxiety. I'm going to take a drink because, speaking of water, I'm very thirsty. All right, there we go. That's better. So next, and this kind of actually goes along with taking care of your health. But that's to see your doctor. Make an appointment, a couple appointments to visit your doctor. It could be that a medical condition is causing your anxiety, or a mental health condition is causing your anxiety. So, we had COVID and the lockdown, and I actually I worked a lot during the lockdown because I worked in a grocery store, and I couldn't take the time off. We weren't allowed to shut our doors. But I started getting anxious, I think it was the spring before last. I started getting cranky and moody, and I didn't know what was causing it. I was trying to work a lot and come home and do other things, so I just thought it was like too much on my plate. And Vince had asked me about my medication. Now, I have a thyroid condition, and I take thyroid medication, and because of COVID and because of the lockdown, I wasn't able to get to the doctor's office, and I wasn't able to refill my prescription. It took me about a month to get this done. And in that month, I was starting to build up the stress levels, and depression was setting in. And I had no idea that this had anything to do with my thyroid. All I knew about my thyroid was the aches and pains that I get when it's not, in order, when I'm not taking my medication, and the fact that I have no energy. What I found out, after you said that, I started looking into it, and what I found out is that the medications with the thyroid condition, I won't even talk about the medications, with the thyroid condition, you end up with a lower T3 and a T4 levels, and these actually both manage your energy. When they're right, your energy is higher. When they're really right, your energy is way high, but you don't want to get overripe. So, yeah, that don't count. Anyways, when they increase your energy and they also produce the stress relieving hormones. Well, there you go. If I'm not getting my stress relieving hormones, it's leading to anxiety. But I would have never known that, had I not searched, had I not known that I had a thyroid condition. The point I'm trying to make is go to the doctor and find out if you're feeling a lot of anxiety. Go to the doctor and find out if maybe you have a condition that's creating the anxiety. Maybe, if your thyroids are low like mine were, it could lead to. But you can also, while you're there, if you're having it, they'll do a full evaluation, I'm sure. And there are medications that can help relieve you from your anxiety. These are not always the best choice. In fact, anti-anxiety medications can actually cause an addiction. They're habit-forming medications, so it could be a problem. You want to be careful with that. But if the anxiety, it makes it so that you can't go to work or so that you can't function. I got a bug crawling around me. So that you can't function, this may be an option that you and your doctor discuss going through. But there are also antidepressants that are not quite so habit forming. So, that's one option. And practice self-care. Everything. This is the last one, by the way. Everything I've talked about, everything is self-care. Journaling is a form of meditation. Of course, meditation I talked about. We talked about getting enough sleep. We talked about going to the doctors and checking your mental and your physical health. We talked about all these things. These are all parts of self-care. And now I'm going to talk about a different kind of self-care. So taking the time for yourself to do the things you enjoy doing can help with anxiety. Because it's like a reboot for a computer. That computer, I've had mine on for a couple days. I've been trying to shut it down, but I think it has been on 2 days today. But I've had mine on, and after a while it gets sluggish, and it doesn't want to, load up things fast enough, and, things don't shut down quick enough, and it's just all sluggish. But when you turn it off and then restart it, it speeds up again. And you're the same way. If you're starting to feel sluggish, you might need, it could be as simple as going to the beach and laying on the beach. That's it. You might need a reboot. And that's what self-care is about. The kind of self-care I'm talking about in a moment. And I'm seeing names pop up, and I don't know if they're talking to me. Anyway, so take care of yourself. Practice lots of self-care. You can get a massage. You can, have coffee with a friend. Just sit around and read a book. Spring's coming, and the weather's going to be, in some areas, real rainy and cold. Not as cold as it has been. It's going to start warming up, but that's awesome. Read a book and at home on a Sunday day for self-care and for a reboot. Also, self-care involves setting boundaries. When you set boundaries, you are letting people know what you will and will not put up with, and when people cross those boundaries, if you're like me, if people cross those boundaries, it could create that anxiety. Well, when you set them and let people know that you're not going to put up, it eliminates a lot of the chances that that's going to happen. I won't say it eliminates all the chances. All right, so I am getting close to done. I just want to say that if you're struggling with anxiety, you are not alone. There are a lot of people who deal with anxiety. There are a lot of people I know, like personally, one-on-one. I could call out their names, but I'm not going to, who struggle with anxiety. So you are not alone. As I said earlier in this, over 40 million people around the world struggle with anxiety on a daily basis. just doing their normal everyday activities. And you don't have to go through it alone either. You know, I'm sure that there are people who will talk to you. You know, I will talk to you. I'll gladly talk to you. And you've got doctors that you can talk to. And if you're part of a sobriety group or a recovery group, go ahead and, you know, and go to meetings and find out how other people deal with it. All right, that's about it for tonight. I am going to let you go. I will probably talk about next week whole family recovery. Does that make sense? You know, I'm getting more and more certain, comfortable with the, comfortable is not the word. I'm believing more and more that recovery is better done when it's done in a family setting with a family effort. That you know, not just the person who's struggling with addiction needs to recover, needs to change their behaviors, but their family members need to change the behaviors. You know, we need to learn how not to enable our loved ones in recovery, and we need to, I'm so stuttering, this is driving me nuts. We need to learn how to communicate with them and you know, what not to do and what to do, essentially is it. And when we have that support from the people who love us the most, our recovery is going to be so much easier. So I'm thinking next week I'm going to talk about whole family recovery, and I'm going to announce some of the things that Vince and I are doing, and I really would love to get him on here to do one of these lives with me. However, right now he's working on a job and is awfully tired. So, I don't know, maybe you'll see him next week. Depends on what's going on. Until then, I want to thank you so much for joining me. Make sure to subscribe, my nose tickles, and follow Now What with Jeanna on several different channels. Wherever you're watching it, just go ahead and hit that button, whichever one it is, and so you don't miss in the next episode as we talk about whole family recovery. That's it for today on Now What with Jeanna. I'll see you next week, Thursday night at 7 o'clock Central Time, if you haven't noticed this, and that's 2 hours for you, those of you, my friends in California. 2 hours. I said, I've got in my notes 2 hours earlier, 2 hours later. No, it's 2 hours. It's the same time. It's the same time. This whole time change thing is a concept I have trouble with. It's the same time, but when you look on the clock, you look on 2 hours earlier. I was right. So for you guys, it'll be 5 o'clock. We just did it for the podcast. We just did an interview with Stefan Neff. We did an interview with a Stefan Neff, and he lives in New Zealand, and he is 15 hours ahead of us, and that was so hard to understand. So when he booked his appointment for Saturday, I think it was Saturday, we were scheduled to have it on Friday. I don't like time changes and stuff like that, time zones. All right, that's it. I'm gonna let you go. You have a wonderful night, and we will see you next Thursday. Bye.